Notes of Truth with Julie Carrick. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Good morning and welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and you know her by We Sing Our Faith every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central, but she is also a regular contributor with Notes of Truth. Julie, good morning. Great to have you back.
Good morning. It's good to be back. What an interesting conversation to be coming into.
I know, right? All these near-death experiences. Have you ever had one, Julie?
You know, the closest that I've had was the privilege of being with two very close family members as they passed. And one of them was the most recent was a couple of years ago, my Aunt Lanita. And she actually passed away on December the 8th, a few years ago. And to see the peacefulness in her face as she got closer and closer was amazing. And then just before she passed, she sat up. She was in a hospice bed, and she sat up and looked around the room, and she said, "It's just beautiful." And then she laid down, and a few seconds later, she had her final breath.
Wow.
And it was beautiful, actually, to watch. Yeah.
That's wild. Well, thank you for sharing that. I've never had one, and I'm kind of okay with it for the time being. I don't feel like I have to have some life-changing event yet, but so yeah, let's talk about your topic. I know you are an amazing artist, and you also create music, obviously, but maybe you want to talk about how Mary inspires you for that.
I would love that. And today, with it being the presentation of the Lord, it just seemed appropriate to bring Mary in today. And in the gospel today, we hear about, Simeon talking to Mary and, saying literally, "Behold, the child is destined to be the fall and rise of many in Israel, and a sign that will be contradicted, and you yourself a sword will pierce." How many of us would want to take our child for baptism or whatever other sacrament in the church and then be told, "You're going to be extremely sad"? You have this great joy, and then this sorrow that is already being, foretold. And that just affects me when I think about Mary. And one project in particular is called Lend Me Your Heart. And when I was looking at Mary's life and those extreme highs and lows, you're going to have a baby. And then that baby is born in a stable. And then instead of coming home, they have to flee into Egypt. And then, so for every joy, there was a sorrow. For every sorrow, there was a joy. And just looking at her life, I wanted to, use that gift that God has given me to write music. And one of the songs, "Woman of Sorrow, Woman of Joy," was one of the pieces that came out of that. And the melody, the lyric, the way that it lets me share those deep emotions is something that I am extremely grateful for. And I'm very proud of it, actually. I know we're not supposed to be proud, but I feel like, so many times when people say, when you write, "Oh, your music," and I say a lot of times I feel like I'm a secretary for the Lord, because I listen to the word of scripture. I look at these different images of Mary and our Lord, and adoration. All of these different times that I can sit and listen and look, and then it comes out. Ironically, I studied solar engineering. I didn't study music. And so it was very interesting how the Lord took me from one career and settled me into something that was so different than what I thought I would do. But when I just listen to him and then I write these things down, I'm scattered a little bit in how I'm trying to share this, but to just listen to him and then write down what I'm hearing, I feel like so many times I'm just being a secretary that adds music to what I hear. But with Mary, it's very easy to write about her because she's so phenomenal.
Yeah, I know you mentioned, low lows, especially having to give birth in a manger. I think people, over the course of time, you see this nice little cozy little barnyard, and it's like, nah, it probably wasn't that cozy. Let's be real. And so thinking of my own life, there's always been lows, and I always turn to Mary because, well, she's our mother. And now I can have another item in my back pocket. Your song that you wrote, this "Woman of Sorrow, Woman of Joy." Just it's a beautiful. I mean, it's hard to explain. You listening to this out there, you have to go search on YouTube "Woman of Sorrow, Woman of Joy." You have to listen to it. It's beautiful. It's not like a sorrowful song, but it's also there's like joy to it as well. It's just a beautiful combination of both of those.
Well, what's interesting is when I heard the melody as I was writing the words for that one, if you appreciate jazz music,
Mm,
that is jazz. I mean,
yeah.
jazz has this deep, just gets into your soul kind of feel. And when my band and I were recording this, when I was hearing it and that the woman of sorrow, woman of joy, it just had to be jazz. Like jazz, it is that. That's what
Mm-hmm.
music that's, does that. And I remember thinking when the soprano sax, which is so pointed in jazz music, and that bass guitar, you hear that just soft, beautiful bass, and then that
Mm-hmm.
beautiful soprano sax comes in. I could hear it as I was writing it.
Hmm.
And when we were in the studio, the gentleman who plays the woodwinds on there, Sam Levine, is just awesome.
Mm, yeah.
And Sammy came in and he's like, "Can I just like really make it drip with jazz?" And I said, "Absolutely." And it was so fun because after I had recorded it, I had the opportunity to sit down with Bishop Olmsted here in Phoenix. And I said, "Bishop, I just want to make sure this is okay. Like, it's such a different approach to Mary." And he loved it. It was the neatest thing. He said, "We need new music as much as we need our sacred traditional music. We need new music that allows us to meet Mary where she's at." And so it's not liturgical. I would never suggest that it be a piece that's played during Mass because it's not that. But when we are in between Mass, when we are in our day to day, instead of popping on jazz or something that has like a distorted lyric, why not have something beautiful like this piece that touches us in this way, but that has such a powerful message about going to Mary, who understands it, who lived it, who can teach us how to tap into that portal of grace that she has to share with us. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm kind of like in a noir film or something. I love this. It's got a nice beat to it, and it's
Yeah.
yeah. I thank you for sharing that. And like I said, if you're listening to this, or maybe you're on YouTube, maybe later, go search "Woman of Sorrow, Woman of Joy." So wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
It,
Yeah, go ahead.
the other one of the other things too, where it's kind of on the opposite of that, is sometimes when I'm writing, and this particular one with Mary, I have 3 adult children,
Mhm.
and we lovingly refer to them as our chadults because they are children, but they are adults. And so, having raised them to the point that we have, I remember this was quite a few years ago. I was in the living room and I was playing through a piece, and my daughter came in and she said, "Mom, what is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's just a prayer that I pray when I'm praying for you and for your sister and brother." And she said, "Mom, you're not the only one with adults. Maybe you should consider sharing this piece." And so it's a piece that I wrote called "From Mother to Mother." And there's just something about knowing that as a mom, how much I pray, and now the joy of being a grandmother as well, and seeing littles,
Mm.
from it's an amazing part of life. But so she said, "Mom, you're not the only one who has them, so you need to share this song from mother to mother." And it is honestly probably one of the most requested pieces whenever I'm doing an event somewhere.
Mm.
And everyone there is like, we've all been there. We've all asked Mary to pray, and then we see that grace flow into the lives of our families. And little by little, they all come back around. And it's the most amazing joy when you see that grace. Again, it's just that grace. The funniest thing that ever happened though with that song is I was sharing it at a parish mission in northern Arizona,
Hmm.
and my own mom was at that event. And I had shared that raising 3 adults and asking Mary to intercede. I've spent a lot of time, on my knees praying for my adults, and I have flat kneecaps. And so
Hmm.
my mom, her name is Joan, she has no filter and she's not shy. And she stood up in the middle of the presentation, and she introduced herself. She said, "I'm her mother. And I have to tell you, she's raised 3 adults and has flat kneecaps. I've raised 7, and I've had 2 knee replacements." I'm like, "Okay, Mom, now sit down." But it was the sweetest thing to see the reaction, from mother to mother, and the generations of us who have prayed, and see that grace of Mama Mary. So I love it. It's a wonderful experience.
Wow, that's such a funny story. Like, okay, got it, Mom. I hear you loud and clear. Okay, I know I wasn't that bad. I have something called Osgood slaughter, which it's like it's I don't know what to call it, the disease, but it's something on my knees and it makes it hard for me to kneel. So I'm trying to figure out how I could play that into my own story about my children. I can't kneel at all anymore, okay, because of you. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh
Goodness.
gosh.
Well, perfect.
Well,
Well, you have anything else to touch on? Maybe any other projects that you have going on?
so one of the things that is also part of the musical aspect of, you know, d- soon we'll be heading into that Lenten season, right? And
Mm,
so I'm gonna maybe give a little teaser for next week,
mm,
but when we consider the different seasons of the church and the beauty of how music changes with that, right now, like for the next, oh, what is it? Today's the second. So you have 11 days before Ash Wednesday to listen to as many alleluias as possible, to really find those moments of that type of music to lift your spirits. So whoever are your favorite Catholic artists right now, listen to that, and then maybe look down just a little bit to see what we might do during the next season in our church
mm.
to help our minds and our hearts and our prayer lives settle into the deep grace that's going to start with coming into that season. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. Great advice, Julie Carrick. Oh, wow. We sing our faith Saturday at 9 a.m. Central. Notes of Truth with Julie Carrick. Thank you so much. Well, hey, we're getting close to the end of our first hour, but that's okay. Stay tuned. We've got a whole nother set of segments for you. So stay tuned. Visit us on our website, grnonline.com, and our YouTube page. Otherwise, go to Mass, listen to Mass. But hey, we're coming back to you. So hang tight. We'll see you at the end of this break.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.